Hi guys, my name is Colin and this is Colin Talks Crypto. I'm just going to bring you a real short video on the subject of Ethereum priced in Bitcoin. As many of you may know, and many of you may not know, about 2 to 3 years ago, I sold all of my Ethereum, which was a significant percentage of my portfolio, for Bitcoin. For this entire time since then, I've owned 0 Ethereum. And to my good fortune, the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio has dropped basically for this entire 2 to 3 years. So the question is, when is the bottom? When will that ratio bottom out? And I've spent a lot of time looking at this and being very patient, to many of your surprise, about exactly how patient I have been. And I follow Benjamin Cohen as well, and I very much value his opinion on this subject also. He's one of the very few people out there who is looking at the same thing and seeing this flip trade opportunity on a multi-year time span. So what I've got pictured here on the screen are 3 charts. We're not even going to look at Ethereum priced in US dollars because that's not what I'm interested in here. For the sake of this flip trade, we're dealing in Ethereum and we're dealing in Bitcoin. So there's no need to look at the US dollar chart. That's the top chart. And then the bottom 2 charts are 2 charts that 100% of the credit goes to Benjamin Cohen for. These are, in this order, altcoins not including Tether as priced in Bitcoin. And the bottom chart is altcoins not including Tether or USDC as priced in Bitcoin. So basically, it takes the altcoin market cap and subtracts out Tether's market cap because it's a stable coin, and that just muddies up the calculation. You don't need a stable coin market cap being divided by Bitcoin. It's meaningless. So I understand why he did this. It's giving us a more accurate view of how altcoins together correlate to Bitcoin, removing Tether in this case, and in the bottom chart, removing both Tether and USDC, which is probably even more accurate because they're removing both stable tokens. But we'll look at both just to give us sort of a confirmation of our idea here. Okay, so the question is, when do I sell my Bitcoin back for Ethereum to ride it upward? And I'll start off by saying that I've noticed a lot of very low sentiment in the space lately about Ethereum, which is what you'd expect to see when the price is reaching low levels, and it's been downtrending as far as priced in Bitcoin here. You can see since the merge. This was the merge right here, August 2022. So for over 2 years, it's been just basically going in a straight line down. And it even accelerated down. The sentiment for Ethereum, I've noticed, has gotten so low that there's a number of people out there in the community claiming that it'll go to 0. Like that it's going to never recover and it's going to 0, and this is the death of Ethereum. And some extreme maximalists even say the death of altcoins. I'm personally here to tell you that I think that's a complete joke. I think that's a very naive thing to say. If you see someone saying that, especially the latter of the death of altcoins in general, like, my goodness, how blinded by your maximalism could you be? I think that's complete rubbish, complete nonsense. The altcoin cycle will probably repeat for decades to come, of altcoins growing, then Bitcoin growing. It's just the simple nature and phenomena of money flowing from a large market cap down to mid market cap, down to low market cap. That repeats in the stock market as well. That's not just a phenomena unique to crypto. And so whenever a top has been reached for Bitcoin, money is going to start looking for other plays, and it starts going into these smaller and mid-cap coins, and it trickles down. And that's why you see these oscillations between large market cap and small market cap coins. It's just the natural phenomena of it all. And to say that Ethereum is dying, I just don't think so. I think that that's such a joke. I really do. Ethereum has the same investment thesis for me in a lot of ways that Bitcoin does. And I'll tell you why. Bitcoin is the #1 cryptocurrency, hands down, because it was first. It's not because it's best. It's far from best. You could make any number of cryptocurrencies today or that have existed in the past 5 years, and they're superior in almost every way to Bitcoin. Assuming they have a fixed supply, then they're faster, they can do more things, right? Like Bitcoin is not special, but it is first. And that's a significant thing, first mover advantage. And first mover advantage gives you network effects and market share. And it's not that you can't erode that over time, but you have to be like orders of magnitude superior to erode that. And I think that is starting to happen somewhat because, as you see, there are many other coins out there that have fairly big market caps. Like Ethereum is pretty big. So why do I think that Ethereum is a similar investment thesis? Because Ethereum is to Bitcoin what Bitcoin is to the dollar in a way. Ethereum is the first of its kind also of smart contract programmability. It was the very first blockchain that introduced this extremely powerful and rich feature set to an otherwise very boring asset class. Bitcoin does one thing, it transfers value, which is fine, and it's good to have that. But it's also good to have programmability, which enables decentralized finance. That is a huge thing. So Ethereum is the first mover of smart contract blockchains, and thus it has the biggest network effects and the biggest market share and market cap for smart contract blockchains. That is why. So just because it's been bleeding against Bitcoin for a couple of years doesn't mean it's dying or it's going to go to zero. It just means that it's the cycle of how it operates. I mean, if you look at those charts I've been showing you, that's what happens. It flows and ebbs and flows back and forth between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And there's a lot of other smart contract blockchains out there right now, like Solana is a real big one. But there's been 100 or 1,000 Ethereum killers that have not killed Ethereum. And some of them are gaining on the heels, but we'll have to see if that pans out over a 5 or 10 year period, because sometimes they gain for a cycle and then they slowly bleed away. And that's the case for 99.9% of these smart contract blockchains that are not Ethereum. They just don't have the network effects because they weren't first. Just like any other token that's superior to Bitcoin doesn't have the network effects simply because it wasn't first. And that's why I think that Ethereum will have tremendous value for many years to come. It's the most integrated, and sure, these other ones are coming up, but it doesn't mean that Ethereum is going to suddenly die. That's just the sentiment talking. Basically, the low sentiment is what gets people saying these very bearish things about Ethereum. And so it's actually what you want to see, and it's what you'd expect to see when we're nearing a bottom for Ethereum. Over a period of 3 years, if you have a couple months of people saying super bearish things like that, like Ethereum is going to zero, then you know you're getting really close to the bottom. You're probably within a couple months of the bottom. So that to me also matches perfectly with these charts. I drew this channel here in white lines, and you can see that it was bouncing between this channel until around August of this year, a couple months ago. Then it broke down. Then it used the underside of the channel as resistance several times, even very recently when everyone was getting really bullish on the bottom being in for Ethereum priced in Bitcoin. It made this massive candle recently. Everyone thought the bottom was in. I even wondered a little bit because it was a pretty bullish candle, but it reversed that candle 100% and then headed down from there, all within a matter of several weeks. So Ethereum priced in Bitcoin has been downtrending for a long time. It looks like we're getting pretty close to where the end might be. And I drew this little green box right here to signify where I would like to start, quote unquote, taking profits on my original trade of selling all my Ethereum back for Bitcoin over here and then reversing that trade over here. So you can see there's a big difference between these two ranges. And that's the profit range. I'll end up with more Ethereum than I started with. Then I anticipate the path of Ethereum priced in Bitcoin will bottom out. It will head back up and it'll go up to somewhere around here probably. And then I'll reverse the trade again and I'll reverse all that Ethereum back for Bitcoin. I'll sell the Ethereum back for Bitcoin and I will have then made even more profit. I'll make more profit on each leg of this journey, either priced in Bitcoin or priced in Ethereum. But in the end, I'll end up with more Bitcoin actually. It's a 4-year trade though. Most people don't have the patience for that. So my big question here, and I think I found the answer, was when do we know the bottom is in for the Ethereum Bitcoin bleed? And the answer I think lies in these two charts down here. And I needed to line them all up to be able to see the answer. So let's go back to the previous cycle over here, okay? Around 2019. Now this is the Ethereum priced in Bitcoin chart. And when did it stop bleeding? When did it reach its bottom? Well, it's a double bottom, but the first bottom was reached in September of 2019. And what does that correspond with in the charts down below? Well, you can see pretty clearly that it corresponds with both of these charts touching that lower trend line, where altcoins, not including stable tokens, priced in Bitcoin, bottom out. And that's this blue line here in both charts. And the interesting thing, and I find this really fascinating because I did not know this until I just loaded this chart, this series of charts, is that there's this big outlier wick or series of candles really that deviates way below. And you'd think, well, shit, I should wait till this moment, when altcoins get devastated as priced in Bitcoin on both charts. See, it went below. To then flip my Ethereum back for Bitcoin. But that's not true, because if you look on the chart above, the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio has risen substantially since that first moment where the altcoins as priced in Bitcoin reaches this blue line. So the answer to the question of when's the right time to sell one's Bitcoin back for Ethereum lies in when these two charts reach this blue line for the first time, not the lowest time, the first time. So if we see it come down like this, the altcoins priced in Bitcoin, and begin to approach this blue line, that will be when Ethereum is, at least historically, at its low as priced in Bitcoin. We're not talking about Ethereum priced in dollars. That could be up. That doesn't matter here. This is strictly Ethereum priced in Bitcoin. This is a very specific ratio trading pair. Okay, so that's the takeaway here. It's don't wait for this bottom, because if you wait for this bottom on the altcoins priced in Bitcoin chart, you're going to have effectively waited and missed the bottom for Ethereum priced in Bitcoin. And we don't want to do that. On a trade like this, where you're flipping between Ethereum and Bitcoin, you want to know where the bottom of the Ethereum Bitcoin chart is. And the bottom of the Ethereum Bitcoin chart is when altcoins, discluding stable tokens, has reached this lower trend line for the first time. Okay, that's the answer to the question I was looking for, and I found it. So I'd like to share that with you guys. I hope that any of you who are mirroring this trade or copying this trade or doing your own version of this find this useful, and I think you will, because you don't know this until you pull up the chart. And again, who knows if it's going to repeat exactly, right? Like, this is one data point, and I understand that, and I admit that it's one data point. But it's one very valuable data point that we sure didn't have. Without that, what are you doing? You're just guessing. You're just completely guessing. And you might think, well, let's wait for the lowest possible low of altcoins as priced in Bitcoin to then begin selling our Ethereum back for Bitcoin. And that looks to be a significant mistake. That looks to be a way to miss the bottom. So with that being said, I would say that the bottom is a lot sooner than we think. It's not, this distance here. It's not a year and a half away like this chart could make us think. It's more like it's the distance between like here and here. What is this? 2 months? It's 1 to 2 months away, probably, which lines up exactly with what Benjamin Cohen is saying too. But I wanted to verify this myself and figure out, like, how does this work and how's this looking? And I do have to agree. I think that we're going to see a bottom in Ethereum Bitcoin when altcoins as priced in Bitcoin, removing stable tokens, reaches this bottom trend line. Okay, guys? Hope you have a great day.